The biggest Indian kingdom was the Nanda Empire. It was about 4 times smaller than the Macedonian Empire. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each rectangle includes areas that are not part of the Nanda Empire, which explains the overlapping of the rectangles to make up for that. Kirti, her story says, seeing the elephants being used in the war, as if he were unfamiliar with them. You are an ignorant woman. Persians used war elephants at the Battle of Gaugamela. Indian sources do not have any records of Alexander. Argument from ignorance, fallacy. I don't know, therefore it doesn't exist. You know, the Egyptians don't have a record of their greatest humiliation when the god of their slaves, who escaped and looted them because the Egyptians gave them stuff just to get rid of them because of the plagues. They didn't keep a record of that because it was way too humiliating for them. They were a proud, and still are probably a proud people. And they deified their king, for crying out loud. So of course they're not going to record the biggest loss ever. And similarly with Indians, they're not going to record that a random guy from far away destroyed the Persian Empire that no Indian could destroy and nor free themselves from, at least without their help, the strangers' help from the far west. They're not going to record that. Not to mention, Porus's kingdom was in the northwest of India. Most Indians didn't even have to pay attention to what went on over there, because that's like someone in Portugal not paying attention to Italy. They're pretty far away from each other, even though they're very similar. Even have any mentions of King Porus? Indians don't mention Porus because that's his exonym. That's not his Indian name. Do Indians mention Porus, I ask? And this came from this filthy website full of pseudo-intellectuals, but sometimes you get someone saying something worth reading. Porus could not make a great impact on Indian history like Chandragupta Maurya or Ashoka or Vikramaditya. I don't even know who Vikramaditya is, but I've seen about these guys. Barely about this one, I've seen more about Ashoka. He was ruler of an insignificant kingdom on the periphery. Well, most kingdoms were insignificant because his kingdom size, which Alexander conquered, it was about the same size as all of the other ones here. It's only the Nanda that stands out as big. Some guy said, Porus beat Alexander and is identified in the Katoch family tree as Parmanan Chandra. Now, some ignoramus said, Alexander's army never indulged in celebrations after they won war. This is a lie. You guys are sore losers. Alexander held games in honor of his victories. He performed costly sacrifices to his false gods and entertained his friends bountifully. In the wake of their many victories over the Persians, Alexander and his army displayed little to no fanfare. Really, after Gaugamela, there were magnificent sacrifices, and he rewarded his friends and followers. When you are doing magnificent things and rewarding people, you're having a party, you're having a blast, and you're having celebrations. You're having exactly what you said didn't exist, no fanfare. Since you say that, you're saying that after he beat Porus, he celebrated because he survived something that he was supposed to die from. No, it was usual for him to celebrate after victory. So you're lying, Indians. I mean, you can find this. This looks obscure, but not really. This is mainstream historical records. I forgot where this one was from, but you can check the link to see exactly where that's from. So, Kirti, her story says, Bucephalus, his horse, was killed. I don't think Alexander was generous enough. Argument from incredulity, fallacy. You are not believing something isn't proof for anything. accept your prejudice. To give back the kingdom and appreciate the braveness of the man who killed his favorite horse. His horse died because of old age, according to Plutarch. Daryavesh received a magnificent funeral from Alexander. So he did appreciate his enemies. You're lying. It's not like you don't know this unless you're extremely ignorant. Are you more ignorant than I think you are? He also had the Susa weddings, saying that Greeks should marry Persian women. And in some cases it would be Persian men marrying Greek women, I guess. But usually it's the men of Greece who went to Persia, so it was more men from Europe there than women. So he was saying that he was putting the Persians at the same level as the Greeks, but not as himself, of course, him above all others. I don't think he was generous enough to appreciate his Asian enemies. Alexander admired Cyrus the Great, and he swiftly executed the guards of the tomb of Cyrus the Great who had desecrated his tomb. Don't speak if you don't know what you're talking about. And there were also a few other kingdoms who accepted his lordship. He couldn't let his best and main army go back to Macedon without him. He was the star of the show. This willfully ignorant Indian woman doesn't take Alexander's ego into account. I don't think, after almost a month of research on Alexander versus Porus, this is what I came up with. So after a month of research, you never learned that Persians had elephants, and that Alexander was generous to Daryavesh, and that he was pro-intermarriage, appreciating Asians, even his enemies. Wow. Look at this shit. It's all a lie. Alexander versus Porus, truth uncovered. We have fooled for centuries. Yes, you have. You have fooled yourselves. Then there's this guy, Abhijit Chavda, Alexander the Greek, cruel robber on a vast scale. Notice that his uploader name is his name, but he wants to put his name in his title as well. I think people can see your name as the uploader. I don't think you need to put your name again, but you are a narcissist. I am Abhijit Chavda the Great. Robber, he inherited the Indian lands of the Persian king of kings and took revenge on rebellious Indians. Cruel? Alexander spared a guy involved with his father's assassination, according to official history. So cruel. And he also spared a mentally handicapped guy. So cruel. And he pardoned the rebels of Athens. Very cruel. And he pardoned the rebels of Sparta. Very, very cruel. And not only did he return the Indian his title and the gifts, but he also presented the Indian with a wardrobe of Persian robes, gold and silver, ornaments, 30 horses, and 1,000 talents in gold. Cruel! So, I noticed he has this video, Ashoka the Great Tyrant. Ashoka the Indian is a tyrant, according to this Indian blind patriot guy. This is interesting. So I looked into it. He said, well, before getting into what he says, they think I'm smart because of my books, like How to Cope. He's like, the great pacifist who destroyed Kalinga. Wait, hold on. Alright, so he's saying about Ashoka the Great that official history says that he was a great pacifist who destroyed Kalinga and killed so many people, and then was overcome with remorse because his Hinduism made him kill so many people, and that's why he converted to Buddhism and became a saint. And then he spread all these inscriptions throughout the land of India. By the way, the Mauryans did not have all of India. There was not a single Indian polity in all of history who had all Indians together. It was the British who put you all in one basket. Saying, I am a great man and I believe in Buddhism and I believe in pacifism. Then the reason this Indian dares call an Indian king a tyrant is because that Indian king rejected Hinduism. Hindu prejudice explains why he called an Indian a tyrant. So it's not consistency. It's not consistency against tyranny. It's just cherry picking that you are a tyrant if you're not a Hindu. That's basically what he's doing. Because look at this guy. Maharana Pratap Singh was a Hindu Rajput king of Mewar who was a hero because he fought the ginormous Mughal Empire of Muslims. And he resisted them very successfully for a long time. The name Maharana is similar to Maharaja, which means great king. Maha means great. So here is so-called great Rana Pratap. And I agree that he was great. You know, if you resist the Mughals, even though they have a much bigger empire than you, then you're similar to Alexander the Great, which makes you great. So where's his video on a Hindu king being unworthy of the title the Great? Hindus can't be tyrants. Hindus can't be bad. Proof Hinduism is evil is in these videos of mine. Check them out. Like Hindu wants me beheaded because I prove his religion is evil. They don't refute my arguments. They just want to destroy my body because they're beasts and they don't think rationally. So this is his banner in his channel. Geopolitics, history, and science. More like bullshit, bullshit, and bullshit. I'm not saying science is bullshit. I'm saying much of what he believes is science is probably bullshit, like the Big Bang. I got videos proving that wrong. By the way, the Big Bang is plagiarized Hindu cosmology with a twist. So I searched for Pratap, the aforementioned Hindu defender of Hinduism, and this is the video that I got. He did a video on him. Let's see if he criticizes people calling him great. By the way, Akbar means greatest, and he puts Akbar in quotation marks because he's saying that he was not actually the greatest or great. You see the bias. So Maha, over here, Maharana Pratap versus Akbar. Maha means great. He does not put that in quotation marks because he thinks, yeah, he should be called great. And I agree, he was great at war. He was not great at morality, he was great at war. And the same goes for Alexander the Great. He was a drunkard, drunkards are evil, Alexander's in hell, and so are these guys. But he put Akbar in quotation marks, so if you're a Muslim, you cannot be great. But if you're a Hindu, you gotta be great. That's how this Hindu operates. Now, I'm not a hypocrite. I just told you, Alexander's in hell because he's a drunkard. Drunkards go to hell. Drunkards are evil and stupid and I hate them. However, I love Alexander for the glory he gave my people because he defended us from Asian dominance. And Rome later would defend us from Asian dominance of African Carthage. Moving on. He calls the defender of Dalit oppressing Hinduism great, despite being a tyrant to Dalits, the low caste, untouchable sector of society. You know, to defend Hinduism is to defend evil. You're defending the oppression of Dalits. Even today, many Hindus rape Dalits and say, you deserve it because of bad karma in a previous life. Hinduism is evil. You are a hypocrite. So let's do this next section in part 3, shall we? Hasta la vista.